गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभः निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। Welcome everybody to the Cafe Spirituality Wisdom Talk. Since there are few new people here today who haven't been with us earlier, I will just take a minute to explain what Cafe Spirituality, the group, is all about. We are all on our personal spiritual quests, trying to understand in the various ways that we can and supporting each other. The loyalty is to the goal of spiritual understanding and evolution and self-realization, and not to any other path, because each person is unique and therefore there is no judgment on this is right or that is not right. Each one to their own. We have a Facebook group where we curate and share with each other. We have a WhatsApp group where we share with each other whatever thoughts we have or the posts that we find interesting. And at least we try and keep a pretty open kind of environment where we can share. And these wisdom talks were part of that effort of sharing. As I would speak with someone and learn something from them, and I would feel, instead of my coming back and telling people what I learned, if I could create this opportunity where everybody could listen to the person directly. And that's how these started. And we are really, really happy and thrilled today to have Dr. Madhulika here. And those of you who have been following her posts on FB would understand how powerful her understanding of the subject that she writes on is. And therefore today, when she decided to share with us the practical understanding of Sanatan Dharma, the practical wisdom behind it, I thought we couldn't have asked for more. There is so much to say about her that I couldn't possibly remember it all. And I'm going to take a minute and just read out her introduction to all of you. I know everyone wants to listen to her, but it is exciting to know about her before we start listening to her. So here. So Madhulika has a PhD in molecular and environmental plant science, followed by a master's in construction. Social and leadership development from Texas A&M University, College Station, Texas. Her innovation in English learning using local language, culture, and way of life has been listed among top 10 innovations in Asia and Africa in secondary education. Results for Development Institute, Washington, DC. Madhulika has been a TEDx IIM Ranchi speaker on teaching with a difference and TEDx IIT BHU speaker on arts-based learning. The focus of her innovation is on the importance of education for human development, with perspectives on transforming self, ideas, and surroundings, and creating interdependence through an understanding of the connected world using progressive approaches such as constructivist pedagogy, place-based learning, arts-based learning, and spiral learning embedded in indigenous learning in India. In fact, I recently attended one of the talks where she was talking about the spiral learning, and it was really, really fascinating. While that is not a subject today, it is very nice to know that the speaker that we have is so multifaceted. And as an artist, teacher, researcher, and facilitator who's passionate about improving quality of education in India, founder of Advitya Bharatam, a platform for indigenous learning systems and knowledge traditions of India, and Adbhuta Online School. She also heads Adya Educational Society, the outreach wing of Advitya Bharatam, using arts-based learning to improve quality of education in schools. Her vision has enabled collaboration of several schools through an empathy project called Gift Compassion, reaching over 50,000 children between 2012 to 2014. She has designed and implemented science education programs through Ajan Center for Pedagogy for 50,000 children in Hyderabad, integrating arts-based learning with science and mathematics, as well as installations at the interface of science and art. In fact, this talk that I was referring to a few minutes back, which I attended, she actually showed the drawings of the students who, you know, through their, how therapeutic the process of learning was and how their art itself had changed through the period of learning. It was really very heartwarming to see that, you know, if that kind of therapeutical tools can be used with children at such a young age, how unburdened they would become and how much they would blossom more as adults. I mean, as a counselor, I come across a lot of people who are struggling with issues from childhood. And if those had been addressed in childhood, they would have had far more meaningful lives. But anyway, the beauty is that Madhulika has been doing all this. And instead of taking away any more time now, what I'm going to do is hand over this session to Madhu. And Madhu, all yours. Please, we are all yours.
Sure. Thank you, Anu. That was a very good introduction. And one of the programs you spoke about, Gift Compassion, it's directly linked to what I'm talking about, because we started that program with 10,000 children in Hyderabad in 2012. In 2013, we expanded it to 15,000 children. And the next year, 2014, we took it to about 25,000 children. And my personal life, kind of start, like you've been reading about it on Facebook, and I kind of gave that program a break. And when I came back from all my journeys and my churning and my spiritual growth, in 2019, I went to attend a conference called Mission Samriddhi in Chennai. It's kind of conducted by the Intellect Group, and a lady was kind of wanting to meet me since the morning. And in the afternoon, she introduced herself to me, saying she runs the Ullas Trust and how she knows about me and my work. And I said, I've been gone for such a long time. I mean, I thought all of you would have, nobody would even know me, remember me anymore. I became a sannyasi, a sadhu, and lived across for 3 years or whatever. And she said, I don't know about all the things you did in that time, but apparently what happened when I was gone is that this program that I was doing with 50,000 children is now being implemented across India in 16 cities. And we don't know how many millions are participating in it. So it kind of went from me and my organization and became of the world. And I think that is exactly my journey. I went from me, myself, my family, my idea of what I think is mine, and I became of the world.
How lovely.
And that is what my journey is. And I just I wanted to kind of share a few stories and show you a few things. Recently, I just wrote a chapter called Practical Wisdom in Sanatan Dharma for the International Handbook of Management and Business, published by Springer. It will come out in the next couple of months. So I co-authored it with my mentor, Dr. Prasad Kaipa. And he's from a Vedanta background and I'm purely from a Tantra background. And it works very well for both of us, and we are able to work with each other because both of us have the same guru, Dr. Mohan. So we kind of work with each other, and Prasad and my guru have been friends for 35 years. And Prasad is the one who introduced me to my guru when I was going through troubles and whatever. And then somehow
15 minutes, ask me.
Somehow I kind of became that shishya, that kind of surrendered to the Guru. And for the Guru's name and about him, he just left the earthly realm last month, August 20th, and his name was Dr. M.T. Mohan Rao. He was a, he was based in the Samayachara tradition of Tantra for about, I don't know, 25, 28 years. He was rooted in Shakta, proper Shakti Tantra.
Okay.
Then he was the department head of robotics department at IISc. And one fine day he had an infection, and they kind of gave him some antibiotics, and as a reaction, he went blind. And by then he had conducted, he had consecrated many temples. He had done 600 or 700, I don't even remember the number, Chandi Homas and whatever, because being in the Shakta path, he'd done all that. And then when he became blind, he just went inwards. The blindness caused him and just go inwards, and he took such a deep dive that he became enlightened.
Oh, wonderful.
And then he revived his eyesight himself.
Oh, he revived his eyesight.
Himself. So this person who walked the earth was a remarkable human being that kind of, for me, he remains Devi Swarupa. His love was like that, like the Divine Mother. And let me show you a few things that I've kind of learned, understood, imbibed, not only from him, but all through my lived experience. And I'm going to share screen so I can show you a few things.
Yeah, sure. Share screen has been enabled.
Are you all able to see it?
We don't, oh yeah, we can. Wonderful.
Right. So essentially, you know that what the talk is about. It's about practical wisdom and dharma. And I'm going to be upfront and tell you that most of what I know, understand about dharma has been from 3 different sources. One, from the family I was born into, because my paternal grandmother, she was a very strong Shakta Tantric, and she initiated me into Tantra at the age of 3. So up until the time I was 38 and my life fell apart, I just understood Kali Puja. That is all I knew because of my initiation and leaning. Then after that, I traveled across India, and I'll tell you a little bit of that. And then I learned a lot about Shaivism, also from the Tantric angle. And then I met my guru in 2018, and he initiated me into Vaishnava Tantra and the Samyachara Marga. So see, Tantra, it doesn't matter what Sampradaya, what Marga, but the guru does what he or she wants to do, and we just try to give a name to it. But that is my brief learning. So I'm not, I've just begun learning, developing the understanding of Shastra, and through my lived experience, that is why I mentioned lived experience. Through my lived experience, the early growing phases of my life, especially from the time about I was 3 years to about 14 years of age, I learned to understand screen sharing stopped for whatever reason. Did someone?
Nobody did anything.
Nobody did anything. All right. It says shared window is closed. Never mind. Let me continue. So from the time I was about 3 years of age until the time I was about 14, I understood my energy thoroughly. I developed a phenomenal understanding of energy, and the reason being my initiation with my family. And from about 14 years age until 21, I developed phenomenal understanding of my physical body. And when I say physical body, I'm talking about the space in my body and how sound functions. Then from about 28 years to about 35 years, I became very observant of my emotions. I went into great depths in understanding my emotion. And 35 to 42 has been a journey of understanding the mind and dropping it. And that has been my chronological development. And through understanding energy, the first 14 years of life, I developed an understanding of the nature of the universe. And this is the first, I think, if you look at the wisdom that you can accumulate or that you could squeeze out of any sampradaya of dharma or all the sampradayas of dharma, it is at 3 levels: understanding the nature of the universe, understanding the interrelationships in universe, and understanding the nature of who we are. So my first 14 years, I kind of engaged understanding the nature of the universe. And basically it was all about understanding the play of energy. And in this process of understanding how energy functions, how it manifests, how energy and matter play off each other, I kind of developed a thorough understanding of my awareness. And then life went on. And as you've read from my posts on Facebook, in 2016, my life fell apart. And I just locked my home and started living like a sadhu sannyasi at temples, at various ashrams across the country. I traveled from Kerala all the way to Uttarakhand, and in the process lived, kind of meditated, did energy work, understanding the temples. And so far I've been to 1200 temples across India, documenting the energy. I'm not so much focused on understanding the sculpture or so many aspects to a temple. My focus is energy. And through this process of understanding energy, I kind of understood that the space-time continuum is constructed out of our consciousness, and it's an electromagnetic field, a very strong electromagnetic field, with space being Shiva, or the electric field, and Shakti being time, the magnetic field. And the whole dance between the masculine principle Shiva and the feminine principle Shakti is what this electromagnetic field is about. And Ishvara is a combination of Shakti and Shiva. When we say Ishvara, Ishvara is a combination of Shakti and Shiva. And the same correlates to Mahamaya. When in Tantra, they're saying Mahamaya. They're talking about this combination of Shiva and Shakti. And through my lived experience, I've understood that Shiva is a static field and Shakti is a magnetic field. So the karma that kind of envelops us and drags us through life, that is because of Shakti, because of energy. Shakti is nothing but energy and Shiva is nothing but space. And this energy that drags us throughout life creates projections. And that is how matter comes into existence. And all of it is in our consciousness. There is nothing outside of our consciousness. And as evocation, the emotions, as evocations kind of increase, we move from the static field to the magnetic field. And as emotions dissipate, we move back from the magnetic field to the static field. So that is a brief introduction of my understanding of energy. I was contemplating whether I should take just one topic and go into depth, or should I just do it like my chapter where I talk a little bit about everything. And I said, let me give a little bit about everything, because that gives, points for people to chew on and kind of figure out where their inclination is. Now, the second thing that I understood about Dharma is the interrelationships within the universe. And what kind of relationships exist within the universe? The universe has two types of dynamics going on. The first one is called Rita. The second one is called Satya. Rita is the cosmic order, and Satya is the universal truth. The universe also engages with itself through an illusion called Maya, through an illusion called Maya. And I don't know why, but nevertheless, screen sharing is there someone bombing the, I don't know. But anyway, the second aspect is Maya, which is illusion, typically known through gunas of the Samkhya philosophy. And I think I can just stop share and talk now that the presentation is not even existent. So essentially, the second aspect is known as Maya, illusion, and the third one is Trikarna Suddhi, alignment. Now, what is Rita? Rita is cosmic order, as I said. Let me give you a very common example. All of us understand the three states of matter: solid, liquids, gas. And if you take water as an example, and water exists in liquid state, water can also evaporate and become gaseous. Water can also freeze and become ice. And between these three states, as water shifts from one to the other, the biochemistry of water changes. This is exactly how energy exists in the universe. And these different states of energy are called principles of control. They're called principles of control. And these principles of control is what we call Devata. Different levels of energy, different ways of expression of energy. And each of them, when they get projected and turn into matter, each one of them can have a form. And that is the Vigraha, the Murti that we place in a temple. So this constitutes the cosmic order, the various principles of control. Then there are various traditions which follow different principles of control and how we interpret each principle of control. And these are known as the paths of truth. The Sampradayas are known as paths of truth. At this point, I'd like to share a very interesting story between that goes on between Shiva, Shakti, and the Saptarishis. Apparently, when Shiva was instructing the Saptarishis, Shiva said, there are two ways to master the Panchabhutas, the 5 elements. The first way is to surrender. The second way is to master the elements. But he said there is a clause here. If you decide to surrender, you have to place yourself in your stillness, in your consciousness. Because if you're not playing the game of the Panchabhutas will play. Either you are playing the Panchabhutas or the Panchabhutas are playing you. So if you decide to kind of surrender, you have to place yourself in stillness. So Parvati decided to surrender and place herself in stillness, and the Saptarishis decided to master the Panchabhutas. Now Panchabhutas cannot be mastered so easily. They kind of, their play, essentially their play creates what we see as the world. And so that play goes on till you master it. So that is how the show goes on. So the path that Parvati took is the path of Tantra. You surrender, you place yourself in stillness, you drop your mind, you drop your emotion. You just situate yourself in your body in stillness, the path of Tantra. And the path that the Saptarishis took, that is Vedanta.
This is fascinating. So Shakti decides to become still.
Yes.
Fascinating, no?
Absolutely fascinating. Shakti decides to become still. So you still your energy and situate yourself in consciousness, which is Shiva.
Yeah. Amazing.
And that is the path of Tantra.
That is the path of Tantra. Beautiful.
So this understanding and all my understanding is through such narratives, which is also why I also share everything through narratives. Because see, I didn't go the typical path of where you go to a guru, you sit with a guru and, you know, you learn Shastra and then whatever. And then when the guru came into my life also, it was a guru that suited my way of being, my way of learning. He was like that only, you know, he was more like maybe my father, mother, I don't know. He was very difficult to describe the relationship I built with him.
Yeah.
And it was not a typical guru shishya kind of thing. And
I don't even know what is typical Guru Shishya actually. And there is only, each person is so unique. So what is typical about that anymore, really?
Right. And this phenomenal understanding that I kind of developed through him was because he nurtured me the way I am.
He recognized your potential and allowed you to grow.
He didn't take me away from what I am.
Very, very nice.
Because I had this requirement to go through an experience first. Because I've always believed that, and what I know, what I don't know, I don't know. I don't want to fake it. I don't want to read some Shastra and interpret something I don't know. So I rather go through an experience, then go back and say, who said this earlier?
Yeah.
Which Rishi said it? Which Muni said it? Which Shastra says it? Which Acharya says this way? So that way I am situated in experience and then I connect back to the Shastra.
And also the learning is deeper then when you are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
because
experience, the learning is no longer intellectual. I mean, I am to a lot of people here who we've been part of sessions together would vouch for it, that I get irritated if it gets to intellectual, the discussion. Why are you just discussing this? We don't know this.
Right. So essentially, that is my understanding of the interrelationships within the universe. From whatever experiences, I was able to link to whatever requirement was. And my guru used to kind of tell me, okay, this is your experience now, this is what you're processing. Now read this Shastra, study this Shastra.
Okay.
And then I would study that Shastra, you know, that is how it's going on. And then Maya, illusion, you know, like Vedanta talks a lot about illusion in terms of gunas. I've come to appreciate this concept of Maya because of my association with Prasad, Dr. Prasad Kaipa, my mentor. I won't go deep into it, just mentioning that Maya is something that creates interrelationships within the universe through Sattva Guna, Rajas Guna, and Tamas Guna. All of us know of it.
Yeah.
Then the third aspect that is kind of related to interrelationships within the universe is Trikarna Suddhi. Trikarna Suddhi is a concept that is common to both Vedanta as well as Tantra. This Trikarna Suddhi is the alignment of Manasa Vacha Karma, meaning your intention, your thought, your intention, your speech, and your action. They should be aligned.
Yeah.
When this falls in place, it's like a triangle. When it falls in place, remarkable things begin to take shape in your life. Because then you're aligned with energy, you're aligned with nature, you're aligned with Prakriti.
Yeah, I use this, the head, heart, and the hands
Correct.
have to
correct.
be in tandem.
Correct.
They have
So
to
that
be
is what
tandem.
Trikarna Shuddhi is.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to kind of, I wish I had that presentation. Maybe I can still have, because it would be very much, let me grab it for you. It's on my laptop, and I won't do slideshow. I'll just show you from, yeah, there you go. I'll share it, and I won't do screen share. I'll just show you like this, so it's not disturbed. So I spoke to you about the energy body.
Yeah.
And through the understanding of the energy body, I kind of understood through my travels across the temples, I understood what a yantra is, what a mantra is, what tantra is in great depth. So right from childhood, whatever understanding I was developing of space, that was tantra. So you see the energy body here. So this is a Sri Yantra, what we call a Sri Yantra.
Yantra, yeah.
It encompasses all the 112 points in our energy points inside our body. And what is remarkable is at a very young age, I understood this within my body. At a very young age, at about the age of 12 or 13, I understood this. And no matter what happened to me, I would be able to fix myself because of this understanding. And then I was also blessed with an Ayurvedic physician, Dr. Ram Nivas Sharma, who understood that I had this understanding and taught me how to work with my body using Ayurvedic principles. As a result of which, no matter how many challenging health situations have come in life, I was able to kind of tackle them.
So people who are listening right now, is it possible for them to find out how they can also understand this, whether it is, if there is anything you can guide them towards, you know, because physical manifestations of issues is becoming a huge problem right now.
Yeah, I would have loved to, Anu, but like I tell in...
No, not right now, but if you can give direction to what they can do for it.
See, that's what I'm saying. I'm not supposed to. My sadhana is such that for the next 12 years, I'm not supposed to.
Okay, fine. No
table.
And I understood Prakriti, Purusha, like I told you. Then I understood how Purusha, Prakriti manifest. Purusha, Shiva manifests as sound, space, and silence. And Prakriti manifests as geometry, patterns, nature, and time. And this understanding.
क्या पढ़ा?
Somebody needs to mute.
Somebody needs to be muted. I'm just checking who this is. Please mute yourself before you start having internal discussions, people.
Oh baby, Laddu.
You can mute them.
I muted, yeah.
Yeah.
It takes me time to go and find who's the person that is doing this.
Yeah. So essentially what I understood through my journey about Rita is this, the cosmic order is this, that it is not just Purusha and Prakriti. It is also that the feminine exists as masculine and the masculine exists as feminine. So when the feminine principle exists as masculine, we call her Kali.
Okay.
And when the masculine principle exists as feminine, we call the principle Kundalini.
Okay.
So what Kali does is create separation from universal consciousness. And what Kundalini does is removes that separation. So the first level of our consciousness is the separation. We are separated from universal consciousness by Kali. And then as the Kundalini rises, this separation is obliterated and we merge with universal consciousness again. And our whole life journey is just this play between the separation and removal of separation. So this depth of understanding, and I could go into this in great depth if we just had like a talk called Rita for 2 or 3 hours. But since we're doing overall practical wisdom, I'm going to go ahead. And which is why in the Odia and the Bengali and the Assamese and the Northeastern culture, they talk about Krishna Kali. Both the principles together. Feminine as masculine and masculine as feminine together. So that is why that which binds us also releases us. The same principle that binds you is the principle that will release you. So when it binds you, it's Kali. When it releases you, it's Krishna. Then we spoke about Maya, we spoke about Trikarna Suddhi. Now comes the true nature of an individual. I spoke a little bit about this when I told you about the Panchabhutas and how they record the imprint of all our actions. And the whole cosmos has resulted out of 5 elements. Isn't that remarkable?
Yep.
There's just 5 elements and a huge cosmos has emanated out of 5 elements. And then is this story I told you about Shiva, Shakti, the Saptarishis, and what is Tantra and what is Vedanta. And this is my understanding of it. If you may call what my depth of perception comes from my understanding of emotions. Because my whole journey, my whole life's journey, 42 years of journey has been about understanding emotions. All the trauma I went through at every level, whether it was the transgenerational trauma, intergenerational trauma, whether it was just rage that resulted as a result of these transgenerational, intergenerational traumas. And so I'll briefly walk you through it. All of you know we have 7 chakras, and these 7 chakras have shadows. On the left side, what you're seeing are the moha, what we say moh, attachment. On the right side is maya. That's why we say moha maya, because we're talking about both aspects related to every chakra. Right side is maya. So fear is an illusion. Maya is illusion. Fear is an illusion. Guilt is an illusion. Shame is an illusion. Grief is an illusion. Subjective truth also becomes an illusion. Then we might reach a stage where we understand that interconnectedness is illusion. And finally, we let go and surrender. I keep kind of falling back and forth between interconnectedness and subjective truth. That is where I am right now. My dance is between these two.
So Vishuddhi to Agya is supposed to be, in any case, the most difficult part of the journey.
Correct. So I am somewhere between those two, whether here, there, sometimes. I'm processing all those confusions right now. I kind of, that is why my expertise is blooming right now. As you can see through my posts, the clarity is blooming greatly because I'm jumping between Vishuddha and Agnya. And I think there are moments when I situate myself in Agnya and there is like this flash and then I come back to Vishuddha. The moha, the attachment of the first chakra is desire. Now this desire is very different from pure desire. In Dharma, the greatest confusion is when it has been talked about that desire is a bad thing. You should lose attachment to desire, right? So they're talking about this desire which is moha. They're not talking about Ichha Shakti.
I can't tell you how many years I struggled with this and finally, came to some conclusions myself and came to peace about it, because it is so destabilizing. You think you're on the spiritual path and all you're being told all the time is you're being told authentic, and on the other hand, you're also being told how you should be. And you said, I have desires. What do I do with it? This is something I wish for. And you're telling me I should be honest. And at the same time, you're telling me you should not suppress. And then you're telling me desire is bad. It used to be so confusing. Anyway, I found my peace through another understanding of Kabbalah.
Right. So this desire that is Ichha Shakti is Devi. She is the supreme power. And that is not to be shunned. If you don't have desire, nothing will function in life. And that Ichha Shakti situates itself in the second chakra. The second chakra is the chakra of pleasure. It's also the chakra of desire. And this is what I found out, okay? This is what I found out throughout my journeys, that apparently, this is the chakra that they attacked in Avidya Tantra. When somebody does Avidya Tantra,
okay,
the second chakra is what they hit. So you don't have Ichha Shakti.
All the Vashikaran practices, everything is practiced through this.
Through this only. That is what sadhus in Triambakeshwar told me.
Yeah.
But anyways, desire is the attachment. Here desire as moha is attachment to desire. You should have desire. You should not have attachment to it. No moha for it.
Yes.
Then fear is the illusion. Then as you accumulate fear, let's say you have this attachment to desire and this desire doesn't get fulfilled, then because of the attachment, you will develop fear because the desire did not fulfill. Then as you accumulate fear, it becomes anger. Then as you accumulate anger, anger becomes guilt.
Yes.
Accumulate guilt, it becomes greed or overcompensation, because overcompensation and greed are two sides of the same coin. Either you want everything or you want to give away everything. Same thing. As you accumulate greed, it becomes shame. As you accumulate shame, it becomes attachment. As you accumulate attachment, it becomes grief. And this attachment is attachment to attachment. Because remember, this side was already attachment. So this becomes attachment. And that accumulates into grief. And these four chakras are what cause the whole package of trauma for us. And understanding this in great depth has been my life journey. And for the last couple of years, my guru had been asking me, like maybe not 2 years, but maybe a year and a half. He was like, you need to start writing. You need to start writing. But I was like, what do you mean you need to start writing? I mean, I'll write, but I don't have any proofs for it from Shastra because I've not studied Shastra with a guru. And he said, this is a branch of Tantra where the Shastra approach doesn't work. And he said, see, walking into freedom, Swatantra, happens two ways. Dissolving the whole bulk of all this moha maya either happens through grace of the divine or happens through your own self-effort. And on the self-effort path, you will go to a guru, the guru will initiate you and all that. But with grace, there is something else that is guiding you. Grace just happens. And me coming into your life is also because of grace. It is not your self-effort, it is not my self-effort, it is just grace that brought us together. So you need to drop this conditioning, this idea that, you're like, did Prasad tell you this? And I'd be like, no, Prasad didn't tell me this. Like,
I was speaking to somebody about the same thing about Shastras and some, I have friends who are trying to egg me on to read the Shastras and you must do scriptural study. I was speaking to somebody and he said, वो कोड़े मारने पड़ते उनको जो अपने आप से हिलते नहीं हैं. तुम कर रही हो इतना कुछ, तुम मत परेशान हो इस बात को लेके.
Right. So then that is what my guru kind of told me, that the awareness I have phenomenal awareness because it came naturally, it is tacit. I have not learned to have awareness. I have awareness, it is my nature. So he said, when connecting to the divine is your nature, you just got to go with the flow. You don't need this baggage of Shastra with you. For the family you're from and for the work that your ancestors have done and that punji, that treasure that they have built for you, you just got to roll. That's what he said. And for whatever reason, I didn't write. And then August first week is when I started writing these posts, because I'm typically so busy with the work I do with children that I keep putting this on the back burner. Then Prasad told me one day, he said, why don't you start writing a blog? And there's one more friend on Facebook, Madhurema. He said, why don't you just write a blog? So I started writing a blog. And I said, okay, I will make one post a day. And eventually someday it will become a book. That is what I've been doing. And through this journey with my guru, there is something phenomenal that I understood. I understood the mind, and because it's Tantra, we are supposed to drop the mind and situate ourselves in stillness and surrender. And surrender has come to me naturally from childhood, and the credit goes to my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. She taught me Sharanagati when I was 3 years old. So I've been in Sharanagati ever since, and because of the Sharanagati, divinity has been such an integral part of my experience that it sometimes is difficult to describe it in words because it's only something you experience. And there are friends, like close friends, Dr. Gayatri, one day she said, so what is this? How does it feel to experience this principle? I said, you cannot describe it in words. It is an experience. And that is what I used to tell my guru also, that let it remain an experience. No, why do you want me to write about it? And he said, and a few years ago, many years ago, 2008, a friend of mine committed suicide and died. And the reason for that was that, and she was my college friend, none of her relationships would work out. They would just fall apart. There was a lot of deceit going on. That was the pattern. And instead of looking inwards, she kind of kept looking for the next partner, and it reached a point where she couldn't take it anymore and she perished. And after this Guru Purnima was the last time I spoke to my guru in this physical realm. And he said, that friend that you always think about, why don't you just write your story so that women understand? There must be many women going through such things. At least they will benefit from understanding that You just got to go inwards. There is nothing outwards. And just your story might give a lot of people hope to find themselves. And that is when I began writing. And then because I was pestering him about this issue with Shastra, you know, I need to know Shastra, otherwise I won't write, I need to know Shastra. Finally on Guru Purnima, he said, don't worry. I mean, you've gone through all the experiences you've needed to go through. It's over. That karma is over. You're going to start a new phase. The next 42 will be very different for you. And the Shastra will come for you. Just like the Guru came for you, the Shastra will come for you. I said, is that so? Is that how it works? He said, yes. Either the Shastra will come first and then the Guru will come next, or the Guru will come first and the Shastra will come next. So the Guru has already come, the Shastra will arrive next. He said that on June 5th, and June 20th, Acharya Dr. Sthaneshwar Temalsena started a course on Yoga Vashishta, and that was the Shastra that came, that arrived.
One of the most amazing Shastras. Huh?
Yeah.
Every other is where God teaches man. This is one where man teaches God.
Absolutely. It is the most phenomenal concoction of freedom. Somebody that would have composed it, or all the people that would have composed it, would have walked the earth in such freedom, in such great swatantra.
Yes.
And in working with my Guru, I understood the patterns of the mind. I understood how memory works, how conditioning happens, what is perception, what is comfort zone, how we remain in our comfort zone, what is intellect, what is thought, how do our senses work, what is our personality, and how all of us are full of ourselves, how we think we are at the center of the universe because of our predisposed ego. The predisposed ego that forms in the first 7 years of our life, that dictates all this. Then we go through this martyr and victim syndrome from the time we're 21 years old till about mid-age. Then we develop a God complex, then we drop all of it to transcend. So typically it's said 21 years to observe, 21 years to understand, 21 years to transcend, but in my case, it's earlier. I kind of transcended at 43. And the credit goes to my Guru. He did a phenomenal job with me. I think everyone would agree to that. And there's one more phenomenal thing I understood, that gender is not a concrete identity, it's a fluid flow. There is a lot of conditioning around gender, and there's huge baggage in social consciousness around gender, whether it is about the superiority of one gender over the other, or it's about the confusion regarding one's own gender. So one end of this spectrum is Kali, feminine as masculine. The other end of the spectrum is Vishnu Maya, Kundalini. And our gender is, it can be any point between. It can be different points at different points in our life.
True.
So all of us are at different points of this continuum. And the reason for that is because each one of us is the cosmos experiencing itself. We are the Hiranyagarbha. And just because the Hiranyagarbha is not just a beautiful flowery dream, it has its own conflicts, it has its own turmoils. Even when Brahma dreamed this dream, he had all these conflicts. So when we are passing through the dream, we are passing through as different points on this identity spectrum, which is why we go from trauma to healing. This spectrum of going from feminine as masculine to masculine as feminine is the spectrum of trauma. And we are different things at different points. Nobody is one thing. This whole projection of you being male and me being female, and this is all our psychological drama. Otherwise, we're all pockets of energy. We're all sunlight.
Totally agree.
And then my guru also enabled, I developed a phenomenal understanding of my Panchakoshas possibly by my 7th year. And all the work I do with children is with regard to Panchakoshas.
Awesome.
I work with their Panchakoshas in clearing their Panchakoshas, and I've developed a certain pedagogy. And then, and all my installations are also in the dream state. And that is what connects me to Yoga Vashishta also, because Yoga Vashishta is the dream, okay? The dream of the dream, of the dream, of the dream.
True.
I think first with my guru, situating me in experience, my lived experience till I met my guru, understanding my Panchakosha, then Acharya Staneshwar Timal Sena walking in this zone with Yoga Vashishta, and I've also developed a very firm bond with Acharya now. So, it's really phenomenal how that bond with Guru has transitioned to Acharya. And what I kind of understood is almost all Shastras talk about Sat Chit Ananda. Sat, the truth, cosmic intelligence; Chit, universal matter; and Ananda, ultimate bliss. Now the Vedanta people interpret this differently. For them, it's not Chit, it's Chitta, consciousness. But for the people in Tantra, it's Chit, because it represents the mother, the divine mother, matter. Combination of Shiva, cosmic intelligence, or the Shakta part would call this Mahamaya, Shiva Shakti, projections into matter. And when you understand how to balance intelligence, which is intuition, which is not related to thought and the mind at all. This is intuition. When you're able to figure out the balance between intuition and matter, between intuition and your projection, you're in ultimate bliss. And this is what Acharya also taught us through Yoga Vashishta. And here is my final conclusion. I absolutely love, adore this idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and this concept that emerged out of Maha Upanishad. The world is a family. One is a relative, the other the stranger, say the small-minded. The entire world is a family. Live the magnanimous. And I believe everything I had fell apart, so I could be magnanimous. Be detached, be magnanimous, lift up your mind, enjoy the fruit of Brahmanic freedom. And here Brahmanic doesn't refer to either the kula, the caste, or whatever, it refers to universal consciousness. It says, merge into it in freedom. So the whole journey is about walking from Aham Mama to Na Mama. Aham Mama is I am. The Na Mama is, it's not so much, you cannot translate it as I am not. It's nothing in everything. Na Mama is nothing in everything. Involved detachment. You are there in everything, but you are nothing in everything. And this is my practical wisdom, what I wanted to share with you.
Very nice. I have been interjecting in between. It's just that I couldn't stay out and just let you speak, because I had to say what I had to whenever I needed to.
Sure.
But I don't think everybody else had the opportunity. So if there are people who want to ask questions, we'll allow them a few minutes to ask questions. You can unmute yourselves.
And I maintain my time, Anu. 3:35 to 4:35.
Awesome. I think we could have gone on for much longer and nobody would have protested.
Yeah, I know, but that's the challenge, no? How to kind of put it together in an hour.
Yes. But well done. Thank you so much. So if people have questions, they can ask these questions. You can unmute yourself and ask. The control to unmute is with you. I can see there are remarks in the chats. Are there any questions? No, there aren't any questions.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Anjana.
Yes, please.
Hi, Anjana.
Hi, Madhulika. Hey, my question is, you had something Rita and Satya. Can you
Right.
talk about the Satya part?
Yeah, the Satya are the Sampradaya, the Sampradayas of Vedanta, the Sampradayas of Tantra. How you understand the Rita is the Satya, the parts of truth. There are many parts of truth.
Okay, got
So
it. So
remember
Rita
when you did the workshop with me, I showed you slides with
yes.
many branches of Tantra, many branches of Vedanta, and you and Derek said this is too much. That is Satya.
Okay, there's a question from somebody.
Got it.
Madhu, I wanted to know what actually do you mean to say to go inwards? When you kept on saying to go inward and your guru asked you to go inward, what is the actual meaning of that?
Going inwards is understanding yourself. Now, all of us have different predispositions. Our passions and aversions are different because all of us are carrying different pockets of karma. So whether you use your physical body to understand your physical body, whether you use your emotions to understand yourself, whether you use your mind to understand yourself or your energy to understand yourself, all of cosmos, we are an imprint of the cosmos. We are a hologram, you know, the Sri Yantra within us is a hologram of the cosmos. So whatever we are seeing outside is what we are inside. I'll give you a very good example. 2012 was the first time I went to Kashi. And see, I grew up in a very Vaishnavite environment, okay? Very Vaishnavite and Shakta. Very, very strongly Vaishnavite Shakta. So everybody told me, they said, you know, Kashi is, apparently it's dirty. Nobody has gone to Kashi, okay? Because Vaishnavites, why will they go there? And they're all like, apparently it's very dirty. Apparently it's very dirty. You're going to suffer. You're going to suffer. And then when I finally went to Kashi, I didn't see anything like that. And I was sitting in a boat and watching the Ganga Aarti in Dashashwamedh Ghat. And there was a sadhu sitting with me in the boat. And I told him this. And he laughed. He said, whatever your inside is, that is exactly how the outside is. So you're seeing Kashi based on the lens you have inside. And it is this lens that has all the marks. And going inwards is a process of understanding that lens. What is your lens? Everybody's lens is different. So if you understand your lens, you can clear it. If you don't understand what is there on your lens, can you clear it? You can't. So going inwards is a process of understanding your body, your mind, your emotion, and your energy. Now, some people's predisposition will take them to body. So you work with your body. You see all these types will be strongly physically motivated. Anjana is like that. Very strongly physically motivated, want to do yoga, want to work with the body. Then there'll be those that are very good at understanding emotions, like me. Then there are those that are very good with working with the mind, like my mentor Prasad. Then there are those that will just work with the energy. Or there will be combinations like me. Like, you know, I've worked with different things at different phases of my life as the consciousness moves. So typically for almost everyone, it begins with energy, begins with understanding energy. Almost everyone on the Tantra path, when I say almost everyone, I mean went on the Tantra path because I can only talk about Tantra because I know of how Tantra works. And first you kind of work at the energy level, then you kind of work with your Kundalini, then with your consciousness.
Energy, you mean to say, which you have inside or outside energy?
There is no inside outside. Energy is one.
Energy is energy.
Your separation is making you think there is energy inside and outside. Because
What is the actual crux of energy? Is it the air, prana, or is it your mind, or is it your emotion? Everything is energy. So which one are you identifying it? What is your energy? What is the energy you're talking about?
I'm talking about your energy imprint. The energy imprint, the Sri Chakra in your body. That is your energy imprint. That is the hologram of the cosmos within you. That is energy. Your prana is your life force. Your energy imprint, this is Sri Chakra within you. The hologram of the cosmos inside you. So typically when somebody is on a tantra, path of tantra, first they will go Shakta. Then they will be led into Vaishnava. Then they will be led into Shaiva. First they work with energy, then Kundalini rises, the Kundalini rises and trauma vanishes, and then you move into consciousness.
So there is one question from Rahi who's asking, can chakras be learned or does it have to be experienced before you understand it?
See, I am from experience background, right? My pedagogy, andragogy, whatever you think, my understanding of life is from experience. So there might be someone, see, the only way you can learn about chakra is through experience. You have to go through that moha, understand that moha. You have to go through that maya, understand that maya. And once that dissolves, you have an understanding of the chakra.
There is one more question from Divya saying how to get initiated into Tantra and who to ask about the right Acharya. Thanks for a wonderful session. Oh, there are lots of messages on thanks, Madhu. I'm not reading all those out because I'm focusing on the questions.
You cannot get initiated into Tantra. Tantra chooses you. You don't choose Tantra. If it is meant to be, you don't have to worry about it. There is no escape. There is absolutely no escape. She will come and embrace you like nobody's business.
Anjana has raised her hand. Anjana, would you want to ask something? Or the question is here. Can you give us a practical overview of the various branches or paths of Sanatan Dharma? This is
that will be a course, Anjana. That will be a 6.
I always like to ask complicated questions.
I know, and I've already taught you this.
I have, it's so difficult because every time you learn it, you only are able to absorb as deeply as where you are then, right? So every time
Right.
So stay at it, lady, stay at it.
Yeah. She's my friend. She's just bugging me here. My close friend.
No, I'm just, no, seriously, I'm asking. See, I come for the knowledge. Every time you hear different things because where you are at, you can only absorb so much. And so
absolutely
the holes of the sponge get deeper at different points of time.
Yeah, but
So basically the question.
One does not realize how much one is absorbing and how much is actually being imbibed. It's only when you attend the next time and you understand better. It's, oh, मुझे ये बात समझ में आ गई है.
Right. But
so Tantra and Vedanta are two different, or is it finally going to the same course? Two different ways leading you to the same course, same destination.
Absolutely, the destination, of course, all of us have to go and situate in consciousness. Only there is nothing else. Paths are different, and again within Vedanta there are many paths. Again in Tantra there are many paths, and in Tantra the many paths are a hierarchy. In Vedanta they are not a hierarchy. Could be Shaivite, and you could take Advaita, you could take Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, whatever your path, and go on that path. But in Tantra you will invariably begin with Shakta, you will move into Vaishnava and then into Shaiva. The level of consciousness you cross like that. So for 35 years I was Shakta because of my predisposition and my initiation by my grandmother. Then for that brief period I went experiencing a very old order of Shaiva Tantra called Pashupata.
I started reading those posts from you initially.
Right. So those 3.5 years I experienced Pashupata in great depth because that deals with trauma science. Yeah. And then when I met my guru, he initiated me into Vaishnava, and then the Kundalini and whatever experience of that whole thing. Oh my gosh, it was like highs and lows. And Prasad would be like, you're becoming bipolar. And I'm like, no. You just ask your friend. He is making me go through all these experiences. And that was a very challenging time of my life because Tantra is a challenging path.
But
So
it's a very difficult part, you know. Nobody, I mean, like a normal, you have a guru who can control you. Somebody who just goes into Tantra might just wreck his mind also.
should
I
not.
know,
That's why.
certain people. I know certain people.
That's why they should not go into Tantra. No, that is why I said Tantra chooses you. You cannot choose Tantra.
Acha, acha.
If you, then you're fool. If you're thinking you can choose Tantra, you're fool.
Like
I love that
Sahaja
thing.
Yoga. Sahaja Yoga teaches you Tantra. You know, the
I
Pune
don't know
basic.
about those things, but anybody who thinks that they can choose Tantra is in some kind of an illusion. That is like the Maya of Maya. There. Tantra has to choose you. You cannot choose Tantra.
So I think we
Does
should
this Tantra also harm anybody? Like if there's a lot of people say the moment you practice Tantra, oh, beware of, just don't do, you know. Is it a thing which also can harm anybody, or it is only for your self upliftment
It is just your self upliftment to walk into Swatantra.
to walk into it? It doesn't
See, remember the story. Parvati, Saptarishi. So what you can do the Saptarishi way in many lifetimes, Parvati can do like that.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, that is Tantra. So what they are talking about is Avidya Tantra. Okay, there is a branch of Tantra called Avidya Tantra, which is witchcraft basically. But think of it like this. When you think about science, science also created the atom bomb. But have we given up on science because the atom bomb was created and destroyed Japan? There are other uses of science.
And also it is about what is within you, no? What you said, what you're inside will reflect outside. If you get somewhere where somebody is taking advantage of you, it's reflecting something of yourself only. One has to correct oneself only.
It's phenomenology, that's all. Whatever exists outside is what is inside.
The reflection of your inner self only.
Anu, if everybody starts correcting themselves, there'll never be anything wrong outside the world. So
Absolutely.
There isn't. There actually isn't. It is all inside only. बाहर नहीं है कुछ गड़बड़, अंदर ही है.
वो बात सही है, पर अपने आप को समझाना भी तो पड़ता है. That's the time when you're in trauma or mental agitation. You yourself don't know what is the right thing you're doing or not. So then that's the time when you do this wrong tantra behavior.
Possibly, I have not done it, so I don't know much about it. I can only speak from my experience, right?
Lots of people do take advantage of other people's vulnerability and gullibility and do rituals which will have them under their influence for a period of time. It is not eternal. It is for a period of time, and it is a reflection of the person's own weakness that the person succumbed to something like this. So one has to just make, it's like you using digital for your banking now. You have to put, if you don't know and you start experimenting with it, you might just end up paying somebody else instead of getting paid by the person. Like people keep having these kind of stuff, right? So it's eventually about your own approach also, no? One will have to address it. You can't say, if you actually trust the universe, then you become Parvati and just sit and surrender. अपने आप हो ही जाएगा सब कुछ. अपने हाथ में लिया है तो फिर sensibly करना है ना?
Correct.
ठीक है, close करें अब?
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Thank you so very much, Madhu. I mean, I don't think any of us want to end this discussion right now, but it is not fair. And maybe we can have another session again and go deeper into one of the subject matter.
And thank you so much for having me over. It was great fun.
It has been great fun. Honestly, this was great fun. I have to accept that. It is great fun. Thank you so much. So I'll just do the closing and then we can stop the recording and also the live. Yeah? Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchit Dukha Bhag Bhavet Om Asoma Sadgamaya Tam Soma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritindamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnarth Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
everybody.
thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Madhu. Thank you, Anuji. Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you all for joining. It was great. Thank you so